A must-watch before collecting any gift from people we trust must. The Secret of Mr. Austin Mbar. The sun was setting over Ogunwusi village, casting long shadows across the dusty paths that connected the small mud houses and wooden structures. In the center of the village stood the biggest building, the community hall where the elders gathered to discuss important matters. Today that hall was filled with worried faces. King Oba Olowo Ogunwusi sat on his wooden throne, his grey beard touching his chest. He was old, very old. Some people said he had seen more than 90 rainy seasons. His walking stick rested against his chair, and his eyes, though tired, still held the wisdom of many years. Around him sat his cabinet members and the village elders, 12 men in total, all wearing their traditional wrappers and beads. "My people," the king began, his voice shaking slightly with age, "we have gathered here today because of a problem that has been troubling our village for many years now. Every Christmas period, we lose one of our young men to madness. This has been happening for the past 7 years. 7 of our strongest youths have gone mad, and they now wander the streets talking to themselves, eating from the ground, and sleeping in the rain. Their families cry every day. Their mothers have grown old with worry. We must find out what is causing this terrible thing." The elders nodded in agreement. Chief Adeyemi, the oldest among them, stood up slowly. His knees made cracking sounds as he rose. "Your Majesty," he said, "I have been thinking about this matter for a long time. I have noticed something strange. Every time this madness happens, it is always after Mr. Austin Mbar has visited the village and left. Every single time." The hall became silent. Everyone knew Mr. Austin Mbar. He was the pride of Ogunwusi village, or so they thought. He had left the village 20 years ago as a poor boy with nothing but the clothes on his back. He went to the big city to find work. Nobody heard from him for many years. Then, 7 years ago, he returned during Christmas in a big car, wearing expensive clothes and gold chains around his neck. He told everyone that he had become a successful businessman in the city. He owned companies and properties. He was now a billionaire. Since that first visit, Mr. Austin Mbar had made it a tradition to return home every Christmas. He would arrive in his flashy SUV, and the whole village would gather to welcome him. He would bring bags of rice, cartons of drinks, clothes for the children, and money for the elders. Everyone loved him. The children would run after his car, singing and dancing. The women would cook special meals for him. The men would sit with him and listen to his stories about life in the city. But Chief Adeyemi had noticed the pattern. Every year, after Mr. Austin Mbar's visit, one young man would suddenly go mad. The madness would start just a few days after Mr. Austin left the village. The young man would begin to act strange, talking to invisible people, laughing at nothing, and then completely lose his mind. "Are you saying that our own son, Mr. Austin Mbar, is responsible for this?" Another elder asked. "How can that be? He is so kind to us. He brings us gifts. He helps our families with money." Chief Adeyemi sat down and sighed. "I am not saying anything for certain. I am only pointing out what I have observed. Maybe it is just a coincidence. Maybe there is something we do not understand. But we cannot ignore the pattern." King Oba Olowo hit his walking stick on the floor 3 times. This was his way of calling for silence when the discussions became too loud. "Whether it is Mr. Austin Mba or not, we must find the root of this problem," the king said firmly. "I cannot sit on this throne and watch our young men lose their minds one by one. If this continues, soon we will have no sane young men left in this village. Our future will be destroyed." "What do you suggest, Your Majesty?" asked Chief Okonkwo, the youngest of the elders. The king thought for a moment, his old eyes looking up at the ceiling as if seeking wisdom from the ancestors. "We must consult someone with spiritual powers," he finally said. "There is a matter here that ordinary eyes cannot see. We need someone who can look beyond what is visible. I have heard of a great chief priest who lives in the forest, far from here. They say he is very powerful. They say he can see things that others cannot see. We must send people to him." The elders agreed. After much discussion, they decided to send 4 elders on the journey. Chief Adeyemi would lead the group. With him would be Chief Okonkwo, Chief Balogun, and Chief Taiwo. These 4 men were chosen because they were still strong enough to make the long journey and wise enough to understand whatever the chief priest would tell them. The next morning, before the sun rose, the 4 elders prepared for their journey. Their wives packed food for them: yam, dried fish, palm oil, and water in clay pots. The king blessed them and gave them a white cloth and kola nuts to present to the chief priest as a sign of respect. "Travel safely, my people," the king said. "Bring back a solution to our problem. The Christmas festival is only 1 month away. We must act before Mr. Austin Mbar returns." The 4 elders left the village and walked toward the rising sun. They walked through farms and crossed small streams. They passed through other villages where people greeted them and offered them food and places to rest. They walked for 4 days, asking for directions to the forest where the great chief priest lived. On the evening of the 4th day, they finally reached the forest. It was a thick forest, dark and quiet. The trees were so tall and close together that very little sunlight reached the ground. The air was cool and smelled of wet earth and leaves. The elders felt fear in their hearts, but they encouraged each other and continued walking. Deep inside the forest, they found a small clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a tiny hut, made of bamboo and palm leaves. Smoke was rising from the hut, and they could smell something cooking. As they approached, an old man came out of the hut. The chief priest was very old, older than even King Oba Olowo. His hair was completely white, and his skin was wrinkled like dried leather. He wore only a wrapper around his waist and many beads around his neck and wrists. In his hand, he carried a horsetail whisk, which he waved slowly in the air. "I have been expecting you," the old man said, before any of the elders could speak. His voice was surprisingly strong for someone so old. The elders looked at each other in surprise. How did he know they were coming? Chief Adeyemi stepped forward and greeted the chief priest respectfully. He presented the white cloth and kola nuts from the king. "Great one," Chief Adeyemi said. "We have come from Ogunwusi village. Our king, Oba Olowo Ogunwusi, has sent us to seek your help. We have a problem that is destroying our village." The chief priest nodded and invited them to sit on the mats outside his hut. He brought out a calabash filled with palm wine and offered it to them. After they had drunk and felt refreshed, Chief Adeyemi explained their problem. He told the chief priest about the 7 young men who had gone mad. He told him about Mr. Austin Mbar and his yearly visits. He told him about the gifts and the pattern that Chief Adeyemi had noticed. The chief priest listened quietly, his eyes closed. When Chief Adeyemi finished speaking, the old man remained silent for a long time. The elders waited patiently, not wanting to disturb his thoughts. Finally, the chief priest opened his eyes and spoke. "Your problem is not far from you," he said. "The enemy you are looking for is not a stranger. He is one of your own. The man you call Mr. Austin MBA is not what he appears to be. Yes, he gives you gifts with one hand, but with the other hand, he is taking something more valuable: the destinies of your young men." The elders gasped. Chief Okonkwo shook his head in disbelief. "But how is that possible?" he asked. "Mr. Austin Mbar is a successful man. Why would he need to steal destinies? He already has everything: money, cars, houses." The chief priest smiled sadly. "You think he became rich through hard work? No, my children, he became rich through dark powers. He joined a secret society in the city. This society gave him wealth, but they demanded a price. Every year he must bring them the destiny of one young man from his village. That is how he maintains his wealth and power." "This is hard to believe," Chief Balagan said. "We have known Austin since he was a child. His mother still lives in our village. How can he do such a thing to his own people?" "Greed and desperation can change a person," the chief priest replied. "When Austin went to the city many years ago, he suffered greatly. He had no job, no food, no place to sleep. He was dying slowly from hunger and shame. Then someone introduced him to this secret society. They promised to make him rich beyond his dreams, but the price was that he must sacrifice the futures of his own people. He agreed because he was desperate. Now he cannot stop. If he stops bringing them destinies, he will lose everything and become mad himself." The elders sat in shocked silence. The forest around them seemed to grow darker and colder. Every Christmas, when he comes to the village, the chief priest continued, he performs a ritual. When he shakes hands with people, when he gives them gifts, when he eats with them, he is marking them. Then, before he leaves, he performs another ritual to collect the destiny of one person. That is why someone always goes mad after his visit. Chief Taiwo, who had been quiet all this time, finally spoke. If what you say is true, Great One, what can we do? How can we stop him? He is coming again in 1 month for this year's Christmas festival. The chief priest stood up and went into his hut. He came out carrying a clay pot with a lid. The pot was covered with strange markings and symbols. This pot contains powerful medicine, the chief priest said. It will expose Mr. Austin Mbai and break his power over your village. But you must follow my instructions exactly. Do you understand? The 4 elders nodded eagerly. Take this pot back to your village, the chief priest instructed. At night, when everyone is asleep, you must bury it at the center of the entrance to your village, the entrance where Mr. Austin Mbai's car will pass when he arrives. Bury it deep in the ground so that nobody will see it or dig it up. When Mr. Austin Mbai's car crosses over the spot where the pot is buried, the medicine will work. Everything hidden will be revealed. All his secrets will come out. But remember this. After the Christmas festival, you must come back here with a sacrifice to thank the ancestors and to purify your village. Do not forget this part, or there will be consequences. The chief priest handed the pot to Chief Adeyemi. It was surprisingly light. What kind of sacrifice should we bring? Chief Adeyemi asked. A white goat, 3 kola nuts, palm wine, and a white cloth, the chief priest replied. Nothing more, nothing less. The elders thanked the chief priest many times. He gave them food for their journey back and blessed them. As they were about to leave, the chief priest called them back. One more thing, he said seriously. When the medicine works and Mr. Austin MBA is exposed, do not harm him. Do not beat him or kill him. Let him be. The medicine will do what is necessary. If you harm him, the consequences will fall on your village. Do you understand? Yes, Great One, the 4 elders promised. We will not harm him. The journey back to Ogunwusi village took another 4 days. The elders carried the pot carefully, taking turns to hold it. They did not tell anyone they met on the road what they were carrying or where they had been. When they finally reached their village, it was evening. The king was waiting for them in his palace. The 4 elders knelt before the king and greeted him. Chief Adeyemi then told him everything the chief priest had said. The king listened without interrupting. When Chief Adeyemi finished, the king was quiet for a long time, his face showing deep sadness. So our own son has been betraying us, the king finally said, his voice heavy with pain. The same Austin whose mother I helped when she was sick. The same Austin whose school fees the village contributed to pay. This is what he has done to repay our kindness. Your Majesty, Chief Adeyemi said gently, we do not know for certain if this is true. We ourselves find it hard to believe, but we must do what the chief priest instructed. If Austin is innocent, nothing will happen. If he is guilty, the truth will be revealed. The king nodded. You are right. We must follow the instructions. But this must be done in secret. We cannot tell the whole village yet. If Austin hears about it, he might not come for Christmas, and we will never know the truth. That night, when the village was asleep and the moon was high in the sky, the 4 elders, along with the king and 2 trusted guards, went to the village entrance. They brought hoes and shovels. At the exact center of the entrance, where the main road entered the village, they dug a deep hole. They placed the clay pot in the hole, covered it with soil, and smoothed the ground so that nobody would notice anything had been buried there. It is done, the king said, looking at the spot. Now we wait for Christmas. The weeks passed slowly. Life in the village continued as normal. Women went to the farm, men went hunting, and children played in the streets. But the king and the 4 elders carried a heavy secret in their hearts. They watched the calendar carefully, counting down the days to Christmas. Mr. Austin Mbai's mother, Mama Austin, began preparing for her son's visit as she did every year. She swept her compound clean. She asked the neighbors to help her paint her house. She bought new wrappers to wear. She was so proud of her son and excited to see him again. 3 days before Christmas, word spread through the village that Mr. Austin Mbai had called to say he was coming. The village children began to sing songs of joy. The women started cooking. The men began to plan how they would welcome him. Nobody except the king and the four elders knew what was waiting for him at the village entrance. On Christmas Eve, around noon, someone shouted, "He is coming! Mr. Austin's car is coming!" The whole village rushed to the entrance. They formed two lines along the road, singing and dancing. The village drummers began to play. Women ululated. Children waved leaves and flowers. Everyone was happy and excited. In the distance, they could see the dust rising from the road. Then they saw his car, a big, shiny black SUV with tinted windows. The car was moving slowly because of the rough village road. The drumming became louder. The singing became more energetic. The king stood slightly away from the crowd, his face showing no emotion. The four elders stood near him, their hearts beating fast. They watched as the SUV approached the village entrance. The car reached the entrance and slowly crossed over the spot where the clay pot was buried. Nothing happened at first. The car continued moving toward the center of the village where Mama Austin's house was located. The crowd followed the car, still singing and dancing. But the king and the four elders noticed something. As soon as the car crossed the entrance, the engine sound changed. It began to make strange noises, like coughing. The car moved slower and slower until it finally stopped right in front of Mama Austin's house. The crowd gathered around the car, waiting for Mr. Austin Mbar to step out. The door opened, and they saw his shoes first. Expensive leather shoes that shined in the afternoon sun. Then his legs, wearing designer trousers. Then his whole body emerged from the car. Mr. Austin MBA looked as impressive as always. He wore a white lace outfit with gold embroidery. Heavy gold chains hung around his neck. Gold rings decorated his fingers. His wristwatch caught the sunlight and sparkled. He wore dark sunglasses. He looked like a man who had everything. But something was wrong. As soon as his feet touched the ground, Mr. Austin Mbar began to laugh. It was not a normal laugh. It was loud, wild, and scary, the kind of laugh that made people's skin crawl. The crowd became quiet, confused. "Ha ha 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 ha," Mr. Austin Mbar laughed, throwing his head back. "Ha ha 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 ha." His mother rushed forward. "Austin, my son, what is wrong? Why are you laughing like that?" But Austin did not answer her. He continued laughing. Then suddenly he began to speak, but the voice that came out of his mouth did not sound like his own voice. It was deeper, darker, and it seemed to echo. "You fools," he shouted, still laughing. "You stupid villagers, you think I love you. You think I bring you gifts because I care about you. Ha 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 ha." The crowd stepped back in shock. Mama Austin covered her mouth with her hands, tears already forming in her eyes. Mr. Austin Mbar began to remove his gold chains and throw them on the ground. He removed his rings and threw them away. He tore his expensive shirt, buttons flying everywhere. "I am a member of the Brotherhood of the Dark Moon," he shouted. "I sold my soul for wealth. Every year, I come here to steal the destinies of your young men. That is how I remain rich. Your sons' futures have been feeding my bank account." Gasps of horror swept through the crowd. Some women began to cry. Some men clenched their fists in anger. "Samuel, who went mad 3 years ago, that was me. I took his destiny," Austin continued, laughing maniacally. "Emeka, who went mad 5 years ago, me again. Chidi, Tunde, Usman, Musa, Adamu, all of them. I marked them, I collected their destinies, and I gave those destinies to my brotherhood. They gave me money, houses, cars. Everything I have is built on the destroyed futures of your children." He began to dance crazily, spinning around and around. Foam started forming at the corners of his mouth. "And this year, I came to take another one. I already marked him. His name is Easy. Young Ease, who just finished secondary school. His destiny would have made him a great engineer. But I marked him. I was going to collect it before I leave. His destiny is already sold. Ha 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 ha." Some young men in the crowd began to move forward, their faces twisted with rage. They wanted to attack Austin, to beat him, to make him pay for what he had done. But King Oba Olowo raised his walking stick and his voice. "Stop," the king commanded. "Do not touch him. Let the medicine do its work." The young men stopped, though their fists remained clenched. Mr. Austin Embar continued to confess, revealing more and more details. He described the rituals he performed. He described how the Brotherhood worked. He described how he would pretend to love his village while secretly destroying it. He told them about the meeting hall of his secret society in the city, where they would bring the stolen destinies and exchange them for wealth. As he spoke, his appearance began to change. His skin became darker and rougher. His eyes turned yellow. His teeth became crooked. The handsome, successful businessman was transforming before everyone's eyes into something else, something that showed his true nature. Finally, after confessing everything, Mr. Austin Embar collapsed on the ground. His body shook violently for a few minutes, then became still. He lay there, breathing but not moving, his eyes staring at nothing. The crowd was silent, shocked by everything they had witnessed. Mama Austin fell to her knees, crying uncontrollably. Some women went to comfort her, but what could they say? Her son was not who she thought he was. All these years she had been proud of him, praising him to everyone, not knowing he was a monster who had destroyed 7 young men's futures. King Oba Olowo walked slowly toward where Austin lay on the ground. The 4 elders followed him. The king looked down at the man who used to be the pride of their village and shook his head sadly. "Take him to the shrine," the king instructed his guards. "He will stay there until we decide what to do with him. Remember what the chief priest said, we must not harm him. The medicine has done its work, he has been exposed, and he has gone mad just like his victims." The guards lifted Austin's shaking body and carried him away. The crowd began to scatter, everyone talking about what had just happened. Some people were angry. Some were sad. Some were confused. But everyone agreed on one thing: they had been deceived for 7 years by a man they trusted. The king called for a village meeting that evening. Everyone gathered in the community hall, more people than had ever gathered there before. Even people from neighboring villages had heard what happened and came to see for themselves. The king addressed the crowd, telling them the full story. He explained how the 4 elders had gone to consult the chief priest. He explained about the pot that had been buried at the village entrance. He explained that the chief priest's medicine had forced Austin to confess all his secrets. "My people," the king said, his old voice strong and clear, "we have learned a painful lesson today. Not everyone who smiles at us loves us. Not every gift comes from a good heart. Mr. Austin Embar gave us rice and money with one hand while stealing our children's futures with the other hand. We were blinded by his wealth. We were fooled by his generosity. We did not question, we did not look deeper." The crowd murmured in agreement. "But now we know the truth," the king continued. 7 of our young men lost their minds because of his evil actions. 7 families have been crying for years while we celebrated. This must never happen again. From today, we must be more careful. We must question things that seem too good to be true. We must protect our young people. Chief Adeyemi stood up to speak. "Your Majesty, what about the young man Eze?" Austin said he had already marked him. "What will happen to him?" The king nodded. "That is a good question. We must take Eze to the chief priest immediately. Perhaps there is still time to remove the mark before it is too late. Chief Adeyemi, Chief Okonkwo, you will leave tomorrow morning with Eze. Explain everything to the chief priest and ask him to save the boy." Eze, a tall, bright young man of 19, stood up from where he was sitting. His face showed fear and confusion. "Your Majesty," Eze said, his voice shaking, "I did not feel anything. I did not know he had marked me. How did he do it? When did you last see Mr. Austin MBA?" Chief Adeyemi asked him. Eze thought for a moment. "It was last Christmas. He gave me money for my school fees. He shook my hand and patted my shoulder. He said he was proud of me." "That is when he marked you," Chief Adeyemi explained. "The chief priest told us that Austin would mark people through touch. Shaking hands, hugging, patting shoulders. His touch was not normal. It carried dark power that would mark you for future collection." Eze began to cry. "Am I going to go mad like the others?" "No, my son," the king said firmly. "We will not let that happen. The chief priest saved us once. He will save you too. Have faith." The meeting continued late into the night. They discussed many things. They talked about the 7 young men who were already mad, wandering the village. Could they be healed? Could their destinies be restored? These were questions that only the chief priest could answer. They also discussed what to do with Mr. Austin MBA. Some people wanted him driven away from the village. Some wanted him handed over to the police. Some wanted him left at the shrine to live with his madness as punishment. In the end, the king decided to wait until they consulted the chief priest again. The next morning, Chief Adeyemi and Chief Okonkwo left the village with Eze. They took the same route they had taken before, walking for 4 days to reach the forest where the chief priest lived. When they arrived, the old man was sitting outside his hut, almost as if he was waiting for them. "Welcome, my children," the chief priest greeted them. "I see you have brought the marked one." They explained everything that had happened on Christmas Eve. They told him about Austin's confession and his transformation. They told him about the 7 young men who were already mad. Then they asked if there was any hope. The chief priest listened carefully, nodding from time to time. When they finished, he stood up and walked around Eze, examining him from all angles. He touched Eze's forehead, his shoulders and his chest. Then he went into his hut and came out with a small gourd. "Drink this," the chief priest instructed Eze. Eze took the gourd and drank the bitter liquid inside. He coughed and made a face, but he drank all of it. The chief priest began to chant in a language that the elders did not understand. He waved his horsetail whisk around Eze's body, moving in circles. This continued for about 30 minutes. Finally, he stopped and smiled. "It is done," he said. "The mark has been removed. Eze will not go mad. His destiny is safe now, but he was lucky. You came just in time. A few more days, and it would have been too late." Eze fell to his knees, thanking the chief priest over and over. Chief Adeyemi and Chief Okonkwo also expressed their gratitude. "What about the other 7?" Chief Adeyemi asked. "The ones who are already mad. Can they be healed?" The chief priest's face became sad. Their destinies have already been consumed by the Brotherhood. Those destinies are gone. However, their madness can be managed. Their minds can be partially restored, but they will never be exactly as they were before. They will need special care for the rest of their lives. "Can you help them?" Chief Okonkwo asked. "I can prepare medicine for them," the chief priest replied, "but it will take time. Each person will need individual treatment. You must bring them to me one by one. I will do what I can." "And what about Austin himself?" Chief Adeyemi asked. The chief priest sat down heavily, suddenly looking very tired and very old. "Austin's case is complicated. He made a covenant with the Brotherhood. That covenant cannot be simply broken. He is now paying the price for his choices. His madness is both a punishment and a protection. If he regains his sanity, the Brotherhood will come for him, and they will kill him for failing to deliver this year's destiny. As long as he remains mad, they will leave him alone. They have no use for a mad man. So he will remain mad forever?" Chief Okonkwo asked. "That is up to the ancestors to decide," the chief priest replied. "Sometimes, after many years of suffering, such people are forgiven and their sanity is restored. But Austin must truly repent. He must genuinely regret what he did. Until then, his madness will continue." The chief priest prepared packages of herbs and gave instructions on how to prepare medicine for the 7 mad young men. He also reminded them about the sacrifice they needed to bring: a white goat, 3 kola nuts, palm wine, and a white cloth. "Do not forget this sacrifice," he warned. "Without it, the medicine that exposed Austin might begin to affect other things in your village. Things might start going wrong in unexpected ways. Bring the sacrifice within 3 weeks." The 3 of them thanked the chief priest again and began their journey back to Ogunwusi village. When they reached home 4 days later, they were received with joy. The news that Eze had been saved spread quickly through the village, and everyone was happy. The king organized the sacrifice immediately. They purchased a white goat, gathered the kola nuts, bought palm wine, and found a white cloth. Chief Adeyemi and Chief Okonkwo, along with 2 other men to help carry the goat, made another journey to the forest. This time the journey felt shorter because they were doing it with gratitude in their hearts. The chief priest received the sacrifice and performed the necessary rituals. He thanked them for being obedient and blessed their village. Your village will be protected now, he told them. No such evil will be able to take root there again. But you must remain vigilant. Evil is always looking for an opportunity. Teach your young people to be careful about the company they keep and the paths they choose in pursuit of wealth. Back in Ogunwusi village, life slowly returned to normal, though nothing would ever be quite the same. Mr. Austin Embar remained in a small hut near the shrine, still mad, still talking to himself, still confessing his crimes to anyone who would listen. His mother visited him every day, bringing him food and water. She would sit with him and cry, mourning the son she thought she had and mourning the monster he had become. Over the following months, the 7 young men who had been made mad by Austin were taken one by one to the chief priest. True to his word, he treated each of them. The medicine helped. They stopped being violent. They stopped eating from the ground. They stopped sleeping in the rain. Their families could bring them home and take care of them. They could speak again, though their conversations often did not make sense. They recognized their families, though sometimes they would forget who people were. They were better, but they were not cured. They would need care for the rest of their lives. The village set up a special fund to help the families of these 7 young men. Everyone contributed what they could. The king made it a priority to ensure these families did not suffer more than they already had. Ezi, the young man who had been saved just in time, became an advocate for awareness. He would go to other villages and tell his story. He would warn young people about the dangers of secret societies and the importance of questioning the source of sudden wealth. He eventually went to the city to study engineering, just as his destiny had planned. But he never forgot what almost happened to him, and he never forgot the village that saved him. Years passed. Mr. Austin Embar's mansion, which he had built with blood money, was converted into a school, the Ogunwusi Community School. The king decided that this was the best way to use the building. Let it serve the young people it was meant to destroy, the king said. The school became one of the best in the region, providing free education to children from Ogunwusi and surrounding villages. The story of Mr. Austin Embar became a legend, a cautionary tale told to every generation. Parents would tell their children, "Remember what happened to Austin Embar. Not all wealth is good wealth. Not all success is true success. Be content with what you have, work hard with your hands, and never sell your soul for material things." Mr. Austin Embar lived for many more years in his madness. Sometimes he would have brief moments of clarity. During these moments, he would cry and ask for forgiveness. He would say he wished he could undo what he had done. But then the madness would return, and he would go back to ranting and raving. King Oba Olowo Ogunwusi passed away peacefully in his sleep 5 years after the incident. His last words to his people were, "Always protect your young ones. They are your future. Never let greed destroy what is precious." A new king was crowned, and the village continued under his leadership. But the lessons learned from the Austin MBA incident were never forgotten. They became part of the village's wisdom, passed down from generation to generation. The chief priest in the forest lived many more years, helping many other villages with their problems. When he finally died, people said he simply disappeared one morning. They went to his hut and found it empty, as if he had never been there. Some said he had returned to the spirit world from which he came. Others said he had simply gone to another forest to continue his work. Nobody knew for sure, but in Ogunwusi village, his memory was honored. A small shrine was built at the village entrance, at the very spot where the clay pot had been buried. Every year, on Christmas Eve, the village would gather there to remember what had happened and to give thanks that their village had been saved from destruction. The story of Mr. Austin Embar, the billionaire who sold his village's future for personal wealth, remained a powerful reminder of the price of greed and the importance of community, integrity, and the courage to seek truth even when it is painful. And so, in Ogunwusi village, the people learned to value what truly mattered. Not flashy cars and gold chains, but honest work, strong families, and the collective well-being of their community. They learned that sometimes the greatest enemies come with smiling faces and generous hands, and that true wealth is not measured in money, but in the health and happiness of those you love. The end of the story. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Make sure you drop your comment and share your thoughts with us. Thanks.